Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, and today's show is sponsored by RexMD. Plain and simple, if you have a hard time getting hard, we get pretty crazy on the Raiders Report, and when you do a few boots, sometimes that happens. So shout out to RexMD for making my life easier. I think it can make yours easier too. Go to rexmd.com/chat. That link's going to be available for you guys down in the comments and in the description of today's show. Coming up here on the Raiders Report, Josh McDaniels will not be fired this season. You know why? Because according to a Raiders beat reporter, this year's record doesn't matter. Think about that quote. This year's record doesn't matter. According to the Athletic, in terms of McDaniels and Ziegler's job security, this year's record doesn't matter. And McDaniels and general manager Dave Ziegler are counting on Davis's newfound patience to build the roster up the right way. That means drafting well, something the last two regimes did not do. I will admit, I saw this quote from Vic Tafur, and I was a little bit frustrated. And a lot of people, when they click on this video, they're going to see frustrating Raiders rumors because, to me, hearing that this season's record does not matter, it is infuriating. But the worst part is, I think it's true, right? Like, I do think that it's true, which makes it even more angry because it's coming from Mark Davis. And the other reason why I'm going off of this is we have talked about this whole thing before on this show. And Davis, in terms of what he has said this offseason, I'm going to take you guys all the way back to a quote that he had at the owners' meetings right around the NFL scouting combine on him practicing patience. Unfortunately, every time you change, there is going to be changes that those people are going to see, but you have to give them time to understand the changes. I know that a lot of people can watch film and think that they know it all, but watching film doesn't give you all the answers. You need to watch the games and be there to get the full picture. So yeah, you got to have patience. I do agree in some of the things that Davis says there, and whether you're running a football team, whether you're running a job, whether you're doing literally anything, that turnover is usually never a good thing. Because when you have to hire somebody new and you have to bring in somebody, like when we have to get a new candidate or whatever, it takes a little bit of time to get them up to speed. But it is hard to have confidence right now in McDaniels after watching what happened to this Raiders team last season. I will admit, in 2021 at 10-7, I don't know if they were a playoff caliber team. They got lucky. But you go from 10-7 to 6-11 and lose the amount of games that you did, it's really hard to convince your fan base that, hey, this guy here, he's the one that you want to have confidence in. Just remain and be patient. Coming up here, we got more Mark Davis quotes on Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler, and ultimately their job security. But I wouldn't be able to do today's show if it wasn't for our awesome sponsor, RexMD. And I know a few people out there, when I said, hey, you got a hard time getting hard, nothing to be embarrassed about. We're all people at the end of the day, and shit like that happens. So I want you to take advantage. I want you to listen up to this awesome deal that we got going on right now. Fellas, do you sometimes lack confidence in the bedroom? Do you wish you could have a more fulfilling sex life? Well, you're not alone. That's why we're excited to tell you about RexMD, the online source for men's wellness. RexMD offers an easy and discreet way to get the medication you need for ED without having to visit a doctor's office. With just a few clicks, you can have your medication delivered straight to your door and at a fraction of the cost of traditional pharmacies. RexMD's team of licensed physicians will work with you to find the right treatment plan, and their medication is made in the USA, so you can trust that it's quality. Plus, their customer support team is available 24/7 to answer any questions or concerns you may have. So, if you're ready to take control of your sex life and say goodbye to ED, head on over to rexmd.com/chat and start your consultation today. Take advantage of their best deal they've ever offered and save up to 90% off and only pay $2 per dosage with our exclusive link. Go to rexmd.com/chat for this limited time deal. Starter packs of generic Viagra or Cialis are now available for our listeners to get started. That's rexmd.com/chat for up to 90% off. If some of y'all weren't paying attention because, I don't know, you're drinking a few beers, it is Friday happy hour after all, go down to the comments, go down to the description of today's show, and get started. 90% off, only pay $2 per dosage. Sounds like a hell of a deal to me. Now remember, y'all, we're going to be looking at more Mark Davis quotes here on the Raiders Report, and I figured let's talk a little bit about Dave Ziegler because a lot of the conversation is always on McDaniels. He's the head coach, and he deserves a lot of the conversation. But you know what? At the end of the day, a marriage is a marriage, and Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels decided to get married together. So whatever McDaniels does, Dave Ziegler is partly responsible for that as well. This is what Dave has had to say on his general manager. Dave is young and has never been in this position before. It takes time to learn all the tricks of the trade. I think the people he confides in might not be giving him the full picture because it's so damn competitive. But he is going to be doing great. I totally agree on the idea that Dave Ziegler is a very intelligent football mind. I totally agree with the idea that he's a really good general manager and that he is going to be a great general manager as it goes down the line. When you look at some of the contracts that Ziegler has cooked up, when you look at some of the players that the Raiders have been able to draft/bring in, I think he's got this idea in his head and he's able to do it, and I agree with that. However, though, Mark Davis had this to say on Josh McDaniels, and he said, Josh, I think, is one of the great offensive minds in football. You know what's the craziest thing about this statement? I agree with it. From people that I talk to, from talking to the players that I've talked to, I do think that Josh McDaniels has a unbelievable mind when it comes to running an offense. But that doesn't make you a good head coach. I can sit back here and I think of my competitive wing eating contest, and I sat down with a Raiders fan, and he's going to know who he was. He was an older gentleman, probably, I want to say he was like 59 years old, black man, super nice dude, and he and we talked about McDaniels. He sat right on the corner of the bar, and we talked about McDaniels for a long time, military guy, and I said to him, I said, hey, I do think that he's a great offensive-minded coach, but that doesn't make you a leader of men. And that's always been my problem with McDaniels. If you can think about the X's and O's, that's great. But if you can't teach, if you can't tell your team exactly what you want in order for them to execute, does that make you a good head coach? That's the biggest problem that I have with McDaniels. Good offensive mind, don't think he's a leader of men. And I'll continue to say that. So let me know down in the comments section, should McDaniels and Ziegler keep their jobs no matter what? Type K for keep or type F for fire. For people that are watching this show live right now, the live poll is, if the Raiders win 6 games or less this season, should they fire Josh McDaniels? Because to me, I think 6 games or less is kind of where this ties in. If the Raiders win 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 games, and you're still saying that this guy is safe, man, that is a hard thing to wrap my mind around. However, I'll say this. I agree and I disagree with the thought of McDaniels and Ziegler being able to keep their jobs no matter what. So what I wanted to try to do, because it's the offseason, is I'm always going to try to keep my glass half full. How can I make a positive spin on anything? I mean, I don't want to sit up here and rip on McDaniels. I don't want to sit up here and rip on the Raiders. I love this team. I love what I do. I love having the opportunity to communicate to a large audience and give my opinion. And if I sit up here and I just bitch and whine the entire time, hell, I wouldn't even want to hear that. So coming up here, we're going to get into why I agree with the idea that no matter what, you should let them keep their jobs. But I'm also going to tell you why I disagree with the idea of why you should let them keep their jobs no matter what. First reason coming up here why I agree. Why not? If the Raiders were this super successful franchise over the past 20 seasons, it's a different answer. The Raiders are still living off, it's the truth, what they did in the 80s, what they did in the 70s. I'll be honest, I don't remember the 80s or 70s all that well. So the fact that you haven't won anything recently, I mean, let's try something new. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Firing a new head coach, bringing in a new guy. Firing a head coach, bringing in a new guy. Hasn't worked for Davis. Hasn't worked for the Raiders. Your last playoff win was in 2002. The last Super Bowl was in 1983. The goal every single season should be to try to win a Super Bowl. And if that's not the goal, go find another job. Go find another side hustle. Go do something else because it's about just winning, baby. Let's go to the next reason here why I agree. There's been way too much turnover recently. That's just cold hard fact. You know, a lot of times people sit up here, fans, definitely, and I'm responsible for it too, and you can nitpick at the Raiders defense, but let's just look at recency, right? Because we do. We look at a lot of recency bias. Let's talk about the 2019 defense. Paul Gunther. That defense was a disaster. Then you bring in Gus Bradley. Then you got Patrick Graham. You know why the Raiders defense has been bad for so many years? They're always trying to learn brand new regimes. And then players that come in old regimes are trying to learn a new regime. And then you're just trying to put all this shit together, and it's not working. If you have actual players that fit a certain scheme, that's the way that the NFL is starting to go now. That's how it works. Even on the offensive side of the football, think of all the different regimes that Derek Carr had to run. Think about all the different regimes that the offense had to learn. The more and more that you do that, the more and more confusing it ends up getting. Next reason here why I agree. Mayock and Gruden, put them in a hole. John Gruden and Mike Mayock are going to go down in the history books as arguably the worst head coach and general manager duo in NFL history. If you don't believe me, you can look at all the trades that they made. You can look at all the free agent signings. The draft picks are an absolute disaster. The Raiders had the most first-round picks, while those guys were the top two duos. And they had, I believe over that stretch, one of the worst records in the NFL / definitely the worst win rate in terms of hitting those first rounders. Now, did they get some picks right? Yeah, no doubt about it. But if you're McDaniels and Ziegler right now, you're sitting here saying, well, we got $30 million of dead cap hit. That's bad. You know why? That's because we're still paying Corey Littleton $10 million. We're still paying Carl Nassib $5 million. We're still paying Nick Witkowski some money. Like, the amount of bad deals that ended up going down for this team, it's really on the backs of Mayock and Gruden. And until all that money is gone, I can make the argument and say, hey, Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, let them do things their way because next offseason, there's not going to be as much dead money. So now it's definitely a lot more of a concentration on them. If you're looking for daily videos around the Las Vegas Raiders, hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications right now. If we drop a video, I don't want you to miss it. If breaking news happens, I don't want you to miss it. And, well, guess what? I've been continually trying to grow my family here at the Raiders Report, and I said in the month of June, we're giving out shout-outs to all the new subs. So, shout-out to Diego. Shout-out to Jack, JK. What up, Matthew Larks? What up, Laprocha Howard? And Frederick R. I salute you. I'm going to give you a homework assignment. I need all of y'all. Take that link, send it to some Raider fans. We got to get to 138,000 subs by the end of the month of June. Now, remember, y'all, you guys are watching the Raiders Report, and today's show is sponsored by Rex MD. So now let's get into some of the reasons here of why I disagree with the thought process of this year's season's record. It doesn't matter. Let's go to the first one. Players get paid millions. And this is maybe me being a little bit old school here in saying this, but when you're getting paid millions of dollars, okay, your job every single day should matter. It should. Like, there are people who bust their hump every day. There are military men and women that risk their lives and do not make millions of dollars. If you have the ability to make millions of dollars, because some people say, well, it's sports and it's entertainment. It's not entertaining if you're not trying to win football games. If you have the privilege, if you have the ability to make life-changing money, not just for you, but for multiple generations, I want to see 110% every time you step out there on the field, practice field, and that goes for players and coaches. Let's go to the next reason why I disagree with the idea. Fans spend a lot of money to watch. one of the reasons why I believe our watch parties do so well during the regular season. If you're like, Mitch, what's a watch party? We go live for every single Raiders game, and people can watch it at home. Why? It's a lot cheaper. If you think about how much money it takes to get to Las Vegas, and when I talk about getting to Las Vegas, a flight to Vegas anymore, it's not super cheap like it once was. I remember the first time I flew out to Vegas, it was $60 round trip. Chugs and I just went out to Vegas 2 weeks ago. For him and I both, with our bags, was like $500. Now imagine you got a family. Okay, well, what about a hotel? Hotel for Chugs and I was $300 for the night. I know people that are spending on Raiders game day weekends $800, $700, $1,000 a night just to watch the Raiders. And that's not even counting the ticket prices. According to the Ticket IQ on NFL ticket prices, the Raiders have the most expensive tickets of any NFL team for the upcoming season based on the average list price on the secondary market. It's the third consecutive year this has been the case. Las Vegas has an average price of $1,035 per game. That is 28% higher than the next most expensive ticket, the New England Patriots at $806, which I should mention. The only reason why they're at $806 is because they have the highest price game week 1 when Tom Brady's coming back to New England. Last season's NFC champions, the NFC champions, Eagles, $642. The defending Super Bowl champions at $607. And then there's the 49ers at $591. So you're telling me the Raiders game, each ticket average is over $1,000, or you go watch the defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs, for basically half off. If the idea is that this season doesn't matter and the record doesn't matter, you better cut that ticket price down to $300, $200. Like, why am I as a fan going to go pay thousands of dollars to watch the Raiders if you're not going to try to win? That is infuriating to me. Let's go to the next reason here. What if Vegas gets worse? Right? Honest to God, I hope that the Raiders aren't worse this season, and I can make a lot of arguments to sit up here and say why I'm confident that, yes, they were 6-11 last season, but I don't anticipate them to blow 5 leads again of 10-plus points. God, I hope not. But what if it happens? What if the Raiders are worse? What if the Raiders plan to get better in terms of the draft capital, in terms of the free agencies? What if it's all bad? What if you blow more leads? Seriously, the infuriating part of last season was the Raiders were in every game, right? You're in every game, but you couldn't find a way to win. If that shows yet again that you still can't find a way to win, if you're Mark Davis, lights got to start going off in your head oh, shit, I might have hired the wrong guy. The Raiders were the first team in NFL history to blow 5 leads of 10-plus points last season. Think about that. Let that sink in. If you blow 6 games of 10-plus leads, I'm sorry. It's time to move on. Now, I hope that doesn't happen. I don't think it's going to happen. But to say that this year doesn't matter, that there is no way Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler are getting fired, I think you're just simply being ignorant. And then the final reason is this. And I'm a big fan of not putting words in other people's mouth. The reason why I say that is because I have the utmost respect for my grandfather. My grandfather recently passed away about 2 years ago, and he was one of the most hardworking, dedicated men that I have ever seen. Family guy. And to even think that I would know what comes out of his mouth, because the older and older he got, and I'm sure a lot of y'all know, you probably got dads, you probably got grandparents out there. When you're 80 years old and you got cancer, man, you're just shooting from the hip. You don't give a shit what you say. But when it comes to Al Davis, I think of him in the exact same way in the terms of respect, where I have the utmost respect for Al Davis. And his biggest slogans were just win, baby, and commitment to excellence. By you simply saying that this season does not matter how you go, that goes against everything Al ever stood for. To me, it goes against everything of what a Raider truly is. It goes against commitment to excellence. And because of that reason, I will never be okay with tanking. For that reason, every season matters. And if Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler don't bring that commitment to excellence this upcoming season because they know, oh, hey, my job's safe, that's just not the right thing in my book. Yeah, we might get a Caleb Williams. Sure, we might get a Drake May. But that's not how I want to do it. That's just straight up. So would Al Davis support what this current regime is doing? Yes, or give me a no. Can't wait to see what you guys have to say. Now, that's going to be all we got for y'all today. Appreciate everyone tuning in. If you're watching this live, don't worry. We still got a lot of fun shit to go on. And if you're not watching this live, remember, we go live every single Friday for Raiders Friday Happy Hour, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific.